My presentation is on education, technology, as well as artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is already around us in our smartphones, our cleaning tools, navigational tools in our phones, as well as in our cars, video games, drones, security systems for our homes, and my favorite, Alexa. Echo, what's the weather for tomorrow?
Here's the forecast for tomorrow in Long Beach. Look for lots of sun, with a high of 85 degrees and a low of 60 degrees.
Now I know what to wear tomorrow. We're finding that it also starts very early. Computer learning games and devices for young kids are, even available for toddlers. They have Kindles made specifically for kids. They learn their letters, phonics. They're learning to read. They learn their numbers and basic math. And we're even seeing that as early as 5 years of age, kids are learning to code. It's actually procedural memory that helps them do this, kind of like second language acquisition. It's because that their brains are better at creating this procedural memory, and the memories are easier to recall. It's more of a natural reflex than declarative memory, which is when you have to recall facts. So these programs that kids are using is really helping them to get ahead of the game even as early as 5 years old. We also have some humanoid robots that we will see even young children interacting with. They do have touch screens, and they try to interact by recognizing human and the facial features as well as emotions. It's still not as good as a real life human being, but they're trying, but still humans will never be able to replace the human experience with each other. In our classrooms today, you're going to see more kids with technology in their hands, and you'll see more devices being used not only by the teacher, but throughout the classroom. So this is what a classroom looks more like today. And the projection is that the use of AI in classrooms is to increase by about 47.5% in the next 5 years. Well, kind of like 4 years since it started 2018. There are many artificial intelligent platforms already out there. Third Space Learning is a system which advises teachers how to advance their teaching techniques. So it's actually an algorithm, and it'll let teachers know if they need to speak slower or how they can adjust their actual teaching. Some of the other ones, there's Brainy, which is a social network that allows students to cooperate with each other. And ThinkerMap is actually a learning tool for students to help them with their math. There are benefits of AI in education. For example, it can assist the teacher. They can save time. They don't have to grade everything so monotonously. They can use automatic grading quizzes, either performance tests. Phone calls home can be used. We know in LA Unified we use Blackboard Connect. Schoology is another platform that LA Unified uses, which helps to assign work. It can provide resources for students as well as a grade book. There are some concerns with these because of technology use in the home. Can kids access it? Can parents access it? And how much time we spend teaching them how to use these devices. Overall, if everybody's on the same page and we're all as tech savvy as possible, then this would definitely be a huge time saver. Some other benefits is that the role of teachers actually changing. Instead of us being the sage on the stage, where we're up talking all the time and lecturing, we're more of a guide on the side, which means that we're more of a facilitator and a motivator, just trying to help kids be the owners of their own learning. It also helps us support students. There are programs that can help personalize what the students need. Certain questions that teachers might not have time to address, a kid could just look up really quick. They could ask their Alexa what time it is or what 4 plus 4 equals. This just helps to kind of streamline so that the teacher can focus on more challenging, complex topics. There's also online programs where kids can go for assistance, and it gives them real-time feedback as well as identifying their weaknesses or spots they need to work on. Again, Schoology, this is a place where if we are all in sync and using it, our students can go, they can find out what work they missed, what their grades are, how they're progressing, and it's a real-time tool to help kids know what they're doing in class. There's also other benefits. In our school, we also use what's called Edgenuity. It's a self-paced credit recovery that is all online. There are other tools for students, Khan Academy, and this is a great place for them to study either for math or other subjects, as well as test prep and college information. There's also free online courses that are available to anybody depending on what your interest is. Also, we're seeing that it helps students with disabilities. It can help identify disabilities. It can help students if they have problems typing, they can speak and it'll turn into text. It'll help them with note taking. It's also social therapy. There's actually a robot called Milo. It's students who have autism and they have difficulty interacting with others, and it helps them to feel comfortable expressing themselves. And researchers believe that the robot also helps diagnosing kids with autism much earlier. So this is a little picture of Milo here who has helped many kids. There are some concerns. There is some resistance still, that fear factor. And like I previously said, it needs to be supported by all stakeholders. All teachers need to be consistent with it. Students need to be able to access it, as well as parents. So it's really a process of getting everybody on board for the same vision of how to use this technology. Some other limitations is that it does seem to be heavily focused on STEM, very much math, physics, science, some ELA, but there really isn't too much about the arts, physical education, or other vocational careers that need more tactile, hands-on learning. Also, there's an issue with investment. How much is it going to cost to get these different databases available for students? Is there privacy, data, or security issues that are also concerns for people? Also, education is fundamentally a social experiment. This means that it can't all be automated. There is interdisciplinary projects that you can't just automate online. Also, kids with collaborative groups or just online in-class hands-on experiments and projects, just not the same as when you're doing it on a computer. Also, I was able to interview a teacher from my school, and so I wanted to share that with you guys.
So Mr. Bonilla is our computer teacher at Maywood Academy High School. And when did you begin teaching computers, computer science, and tell us a little bit more about what you teach?
Yes, sure. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I had forgotten how long I've been teaching, and so like yesterday I sat down and like calculated because I thought it'd only been 3 or 4 years because it seems like it's been recent. I've been teaching this is my 13th year, and I taught math for 7, and I've actually been teaching computers for 6 years, yeah.
So how has teaching computers changed since you began, and also how has artificial intelligence, devices, programs, robots, all that stuff become more a part of the technology in the classroom?
Sure, yeah, great question. Yeah, when I first started out, it was a lot of Microsoft Word, Excel, like we taught all the kids the whole Microsoft suite. And then programming started like seeping in a little bit there. And and then I realized that I had like different levels of kids, and so I was kind of looking for different curriculums. And there's a nonprofit called Code.org that started up probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and they made a really phenomenal curriculum that connects, programming and just computers in general, like with society and actual real life things. And they have really good curriculum that I've used for the last couple of years. And it's just brought in more tangible things where the kids were doing, a lot of programming before and writing code, and but this has just brought in a lot more of like actual computing, and we start doing like Lego robotics, and they've also brought in some of these like circuit boards here. So these are these circuit boards that I've done the last couple years. So at the end, after they've learned programming, they actually learn program. They call it physical computing because it's an actual physical object that they can actually program and see it respond and see the lights and different things there. So
awesome. How can institutions like an educational facility and whatever we call ourselves help students prepare for lives and careers in the world that infuse technology and artificial intelligence?
It's another good question. Yeah, that's what we want to do too. So sometimes they're in the classroom and then they get out to the real world, or even some, will go to college for programming or get into real programming jobs, and there's a big disconnect. And so we've tried to make that connect happen a little bit more. And so basically we kind of treat it as a business. Like this is we're having you invent something, maybe something like this. And at the beginning of the semester, they actually have to think of some kind of innovation that's never been made before, something that the world needs. And we kind of focus on some kind of problem that's out there, like what's a problem that you could solve with technology, and kind of that big disconnect from, kids spend so much time on social media, like hours and hours on social media. Like, what if we use that time to do something that was productive, that would change the world, that would make money, and that would help people? And so they start from the beginning thinking about that, and at the end they come up with something, and part of it's like we have limitations, they're in high school, but at least they know, hey, I can actually make something and then apply that to kind of bigger things. And we divide them up to, like, they take it kind of as a project. Like, this is your assigned project and you have your due dates, you're setting, we spent almost 6 weeks on this project, and they have to break it apart and have, make sure they're completing things. And I kind of explained to them it's very much like a programming environment where you're part of a team, a project team. There's a project manager, and you're making sure that you complete the different parts on time. And and we'll even do different programs where they have to, each student will do a part of the program and they have to put it together, which is really challenging. So they kind of get the feel of like, oh yeah, this person didn't do their work, what am I supposed to do? Or my code didn't match with theirs. And so they're kind of getting into that real workforce environment a little bit more. So.
And as you imagine what education is going to look like, what do you think 10, 15 years from now? What does the future hold?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see a lot more responsive technology. I think one of the issues we have, there's a lot of independent learning, but it doesn't really meet a student's need like a teacher does. And so I think there's going to be more of that where, a student has a specific skill that they need to develop, and it really focuses on that skill and teaches it well. I'm hoping that we can get there, because I think that's the big weakness right now in technology, where it's some students are still slipping through the crack. Like, some do really well, independent study, they can do that, but there's still a big need for students to get their focus need on and not waste time and make that engaging and stuff. So I'm hoping the future brings that soon, because we need it. Our kids need it now. So
yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And as we learned from Mr. Bonilla, we can't necessarily replace that human touch where we are actually motivators. Educators are motivators. So just to kind of wrap it up here, yes, AI is great. It's going to help us, but students actually need human modeling. They do better when they see a human doing something as opposed to a robot doing it. They know how to replicate what a human does. Also, again, teachers inspire students to work harder, to make progress, to direct them and redirect them when they're off course. Also, teachers have empathy and intuition. We know our students. We know if they're having a rough day. If something went wrong in a previous class, we can look at their facial expressions, their appearance, maybe their clothes, the emotional state they're in, and we can know how they're going to be able to work in the class today. And a computer can't always tell that. These digital tools are great, and they are a support for teachers. Rather than replacing them, we should think of them more as TAs or teacher assistants. And finally, teachers, we do this because maybe at one time we were inspired by a teacher. A lot of people ask who a role model was or who inspired you, and a lot of times it was a teacher that we had. So, what we do really does make a difference, and that human element can never be replaced by any computer.